While other channels within the internationalization space double down and triple down on the narrative that there is no future within the West, let me go over why I am the antithesis of this mindset and why realistically the West isn't falling as far as people think. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Report. Today we're going over a lot of my competitors are constantly moving away from Western ideation and this sense of genuine liberalism, which people misunderstand the word liberalism, and why I've been the antithesis of this trend in a world where I do agree in some respects the West has particularly gotten bad at understanding basic demographics and migration policy. Now, am I saying that I live in the West? No. Am I saying that you should live in the West? No. Right now I'm in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. So I do not say this as a person who believes totally that all things are fine and dandy in the West. So I believe in nuance. I believe in people making their decision on the basis of what they believe and what their mindset is. And while a lot of my competitors will talk to you about how, oh, you should get your taxes as low as possible, whatever else, realistically, taxes are one part of the equation. And if you like a social safety net, you have to pay taxes. If you like government services, like reduced cost healthcare or bargaining agreements with governments and private entities, you will have to pay taxes. Now, do you need to pay a lot of taxes? Not inherently. And here at the Traveling Reports, we actually do a lot of this sort of direct understanding of what the best trade-off is for you. Now, for me, I prefer private markets, everything. I prefer to do my healthcare in the private markets. You know, if I want to fly into Malaysia, if I want to fly into Thailand, I may get a checkup, right? And that's my mindset, right? I'm not going to go into a public hospital and spend time there. Even if I were living in Poland, which I actually plan to spend some time in Poland here in the next few years and live 6 months here to get citizenship in Poland. But my goals in Poland are that I believe it is a free society. And if you value that more social cohesion mindset of the West, it's perfectly normal to optimize your taxes within the West. And as someone who grew up in the United States, I still pay taxes to the United States, right? I pay social contributions, self-employment taxes, Medicare and Medicaids. I pay into a retirement system that I'll never use. And I think that people are too focused on taxes. I was too focused. I made this mistake when I was younger, 16, 17, 18. I was running businesses. I was grinding, hustling. And in the US especially, there's this thought that you have to reduce your taxes as much as physically possible. And this is why my competition works, right? This is why they win. It's because the mindset in the United States is very anti-tax. More broadly, especially in California or Florida or whatever, you see a lot of the people there are anti-tax. And California, yes, it's a liberal state, but they are very anti-tax. Or Washington, right? Wyoming, stuff like this. And I grew up in Missouri. Oftentimes, to give you an anecdote of what it was that I grew up around, and of course, if you appreciate me going into my own personal life and giving you this information for absolutely free, the least you could do is leave a subscription. However, when I look at how I grew up, taxes were not seen as the enemy. What was seen as more important was cash flow. And cash flow I still, to this day, have issues, right, with my understanding of my upbringing. But I start to understand and realize why people are like that in the Midwest. And I think it comes down to the fact that if you don't have cash flow, if you don't have a business that is stable and creating money on its own, then who cares about taxes? Who cares about taxes at 0% when you're earning $20,000, right? You'd rather pay 15% and earn 200,000, 400,000. That mentality is what I was raised to think about, right? And while I got lost in the weeds and really didn't understand that for a long time, this channel has been the learning process, right, that I have come up with. And I have lived in 7 or 8 different countries, depending on how you classify living in a country. I've lived in Moldova, I've lived in Ukraine, Poland, Georgia, Albania, Mexico, the US, and I continue to live in several countries. I continue to spend time in several countries. But what I've learned from living in all of these countries is that there's pros and cons to each. And you're not finding the perfect country. You're not finding the one country that you really desire, right? Because if you want large capital markets, if you want large capital injection, if you want large amounts of investment, the US is the only place. If you want the potential being a unicorn, Scandinavia is a large proponent of becoming a unicorn, especially as of recent, as well as the Baltics. If you are someone who enjoys spending time with your family, then maybe a place like Poland or Albania would be better, as those are very family-oriented societies. So it comes down to not just one thing. It's not just taxes. And the reason I left the United States was not taxes. I legally reduced my taxes to 0. And in fact, I am paying more taxes outside of the United States than within it. And the reason why is predominantly because the business expenses are not nearly as high, because I am not spending nearly as much money on business expenses. I'm not writing off, $50 meals, because I'm not having $50 meals, especially in Ukraine, in Moldova, in Uzbekistan, here in Kyrgyzstan, right? The countries that I've posted on this channel, you're not gonna sit down and have a $50 steak dinner. The ultimate freedom you get from this mindset is you're not worried about taxes anymore. What you're worried about is optimizing your life to reduce stress and reduce what it is that you need, that you want. And of course, if you're looking for a way to escape these sorts of guru mentality creators, I would drop down into the description, fill out the sovereign checklist, where of course you can fill out the form, and I will send you a jurisdictional one-pager to learn about these sorts of things. If you like this video, feel free to like it. If you really like this video, feel free to share it with your friends. If you are looking for a way to join me on this journey of internationalization and globalization, feel free to subscribe. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.